So there.
So there.
So there.
So there.
Let me know your thoughts.
So there.
So there.
So there.
Let me know your thoughts.
Why do you keep saying let us know your thoughts?
Let me know your thoughts to me is a nice lead-in for So there. So there. Welcome to episode 73 of So There. I'm Tom Karamitis.
And I'm Gary Doyle. And those of you who are listening, you're one of the few still listening. Our listenership has dwindled over the years, and we have a lot of theories for that. But anyway, we've done some things to try and goose those numbers. If you recall, our last episode took place at the mall.
We thought going to a shopping mall would be interesting, different.
It wasn't. Gary and Tom went to Hawthorne Mall in Illinois to assess the state of the American mall and to assess the people that walk around in it.
And as we came to realize, there are relatively few people walking around malls these days, so we kind of just looked at each other and hung out in the food court for a while. But for those of you that found it was interesting, I thank you for that. But we decided today to bring out the big guns and do an installment that we like to call Conversations with Legends.
We should say that together. Conversations with Legends. We don't have a stinger made for that, so we had to say it in unison. Yeah, so this is, as our listeners know, this is where we bring in legends to have a conversation with them, hence Conversations with Legends. Tom, do you want to hear about who we have today?
I would love to.
All right, let me tell you about him. He is a big shot director, Hollywood director, advertising director, and producer, a 6-time nominee and 3-time winner of the Directors Guild of America, honoring outstanding directorial achievements in TV and film, director of the feature film Glory Road, produced by mega producer Jerry Bruckheimer, starring John Voight, Pat Riley, and he's in it, and maybe not starring, and other stars, which grossed $45 million at the box office nationally and internationally.
And that's 2006 numbers.
2006, yeah, okay. In his advertising career, this man has won Cannes Film Festival Lions, One Show Awards, Communication Arts Awards, among many, many others. He has stood in the Oval Office with presidents. He has worked with Tommy Lee Jones and many, many too many other celebrities to mention. So wealthy that he has an uncashed check for $1 million in his office. Tom, let's welcome directing legend, James Gartner.
Thank you very much. So, when do I get to talk?
You can talk now.
So I'm arguing with you guys about this legend thing while you were going on and on and on and on.
It didn't take long to start arguing, did it?
Yeah. I looked up legend, and I have to fight you on that. A legend, a story coming down from the past. That might work.
Well, you're still alive. You're not from the past.
Correct. A body of such stories. I have stories. A popular myth. A person or thing that inspires legends. That's not the case.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Inspiration there. The legend identifies the various parts of the illustrated anatomy. Okay, well maybe.
Wait. 1 minute.
Yeah.
Wait.
And the rest. So anyhow, I'm fighting you on legend, but thank you very much. Thank you.
We could just wrap this up now. We could call it something else. We could call it Conversations with People Named Jim. Should we?
I will say, and Gary and I know you from advertising, obviously, and advertising, is a historically fickle business when it comes to identifying kind of, the top artists who work in the industry. You have been at the very top echelon of commercial directors for pretty much for longer than anybody else I can probably think of, at least in my time in the industry, which was from the late 80s until a year or so ago. And that's pretty unusual.
Is there a question here?
Well, no, I'm capitalizing on the whole legend thing. In advertising, you are and were a directing legend.
Well,
What's he supposed to say to that?
that I don't see it that way. I mean, maybe being on the inside is really very nice of you to say, but it's like honestly, I don't see it. Like reading some of those comments that you sent to me today, I went, really? I don't see myself that way at all. Honest to goodness, not just saying that. Yeah.
So you have said to us that even though, as Tom said, you were an extremely successful director. In our business, they call directors A-list directors. Jim was definitely an A-list director, A-plus director. But you used to tell me that you had great anxiety before every shoot. Is that right?
Yeah.
Now, why is that?
It certainly got better as time went on. But first of all, it goes back to Catholic school, but I won't go there. But no, there's a lot of insecurities. The jobs were just gigantic. You'd show up and, I was a radio guy. My past was radio, and you'd walk into a studio by yourself and produce something. There wasn't anybody hanging around looking over your shoulder. And then when you do a commercial shoot or a feature, you've got, in terms of commercials, probably 50, 60 crew people ready for you to tell them, waiting for you to tell them where you're going to put the camera, what are you going to do. The movie, it's literally hundreds of people, and it's explosive. I mean, you pull up, I was telling Tom, I think, about, I forgot who it was, about Spielberg, something he said that I loved. Spielberg was asked, what's the hardest part about directing? And he said, getting out of the car. And bingo. It's so great because it's so intimidating. You show up in the morning and you've got all these people waiting. It's frightening. Yeah. I mean, it is for me. I mean, other directors may just walk into it casually, but it was always an intimidating thing for me.
I remember the first commercial I did. It was in the Mojave Desert. And it was some dumb 15-second ad for cereal, but it was in the Mojave Desert, and all these people were out there, and I had the same experience. I walked onto the set, and I'm like, all these people are here, and half of them were fainting because it was so hot, and they had the towels around their heads. Like, all these people are here for my dumb idea. It's crazy.
Yeah, I know. Exactly right.
So did you have, you're familiar with imposter syndrome, is that right? You know what that is?
No.
Imposter syndrome is where you deep down don't think you think you're just playing a director or, creative director or whatever your job is, but you're not really that good at it. Or would you say you suffered from imposter syndrome?
Yeah. What am I doing here? Yeah, absolutely. It's a weird thing. Like what? Same thing that you just said. What are all these people doing here because of me? How did I get here?
You had said to me yesterday that when you started directing the commercial world, you weren't really doing dialogue storytelling. You were kind of doing more vignettes. I find that really interesting because I know in my whole career, whenever we had a really good, strong piece of creative that was dialogue storytelling, I'd always had to find, 3 directors to bid. 2 of them always came to mind right away. Joe Pytka, Jim Gartner, and not necessarily in that order. The third one tended to be different.
Does it enrage you that he said Pytka first?
No, I would have put Pytka first too.
The third one tended to change, right? Depending on who had was hot at the time or he just did that thing.
Yeah.
But I thought it was interesting that you didn't really start in that world of dialogue storytelling, which is really hard to do. Did you discover that was, I think I'm good at that, or I really like doing that kind of work? How did you move over to that world?
Yeah, the first stuff I did was either vignettes like you're saying or stories that are just told visually without an actor saying anything, which, like a Clint Eastwood movie, a lot of times you just don't need dialogue at all.
And very little that's done now.
That's
in
right,
advertising.
absolutely. And it's wonderful when you can tell a story visually. I mean, it's more difficult because you have to let the pictures tell a story. For me, it was you cast good people, and it just takes care of itself. A director, if you cast it correctly, you just sit back and you watch. The trick is the casting.
Now let me ask you a question. Some of your earliest stuff, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, were those famous spots from the late 70s, early 80s for the LDS Church.
Yeah.
That was dialogue, wasn't it, usually? Or is that, I mean, there were always storytelling spots.
A lot of it was visual. The stuff that I did was visual. Interestingly, I think because I started out as a writer at this like little boutique where I was at, and I didn't know anything about film and television, and I found myself writing as if, I think this is why I didn't write a lot of dialogue, because my brain was into audio, which sounds a little contradictory, but I wasn't comfortable writing dialogue. I was more comfortable telling a story visually. And so that's why a lot of that stuff didn't have it when I was writing it. And then the early dialogue stuff, I would go off to LA and work with directors because I didn't have any idea how to direct. So I would work with directors, and I would get there, and the dialogue stuff that I did write, the early stuff was done by, other directors like Stu Hagman, Norm Griner. Those are names that probably won't mean much to the crowd listening.
I remember them.
Yeah, but you do.
But I'm an old guy too.
Yeah.
But you talk about dialogue and visuals or storytelling. I find myself, I don't write a lot of dialogue commercials because I find that so few directors, I mean, probably my dialogue's terrible too, but so few directors can direct it.
It's interesting.
You can do how to direct dialogue, but it would be so frustrating because they just wouldn't know how to direct it. They wouldn't know how to get it out of actors. They would either say, we've experienced this, director saying to an actor, well, just play with that a little bit. Try something different. And the director's like, or the actor's like, I don't know what to do with that. Or they would say it like this.
Yeah.
And that's not the way to do it either. But there's an art to getting a performance out of a actor, right?
So there's two things. First of all, what I've already said, I stand by. If you cast it well, it's done. I mean, you're going to get some good stuff. The trick is in casting. But the other thing that I used to do a lot, and it worked probably 98% of the time, is that I would do takes and whatever it would take to get something that we all liked. And then I would walk up to the actor and say, you know what, we've got it. We can go home right now. We've got it. Let's do a bonus round. I called it bonus round.
I remember bonus round.
Yeah, and actors loved it.
Huh.
They loved it. You can do whatever you want. Change the dialogue, give it a different read, whatever you want, and boom. It always opened up people. They they relaxed.
Well, that was the thing. The way you set that up put them at ease. Okay.
Yeah.
This is anything at this point is extra as a bonus. We're already
dessert.
good.
Yeah.
As opposed. So when you were directing actors to do dialogue, were you thinking in terms of keeping them on a path, as opposed to, as Gary said a couple minutes ago, try something different where they might be tempted to go all over the place? Did you have a conscious plan in your mind about whether it was starting relatively flat and then getting more broader or whatever, or was it just kind of when you'd hear it, you'd know it?
I think the latter. I didn't come. I mean, you know the character because you know the story, and so you know what zone you need to be in. And if the actor's way off, then you kind of guide him back without giving him line readings, which I would never do because I think it's insulting.
But that's interesting because you said yesterday we were chatting about some of this stuff, and you had said your least favorite part of the production process was casting.
It's painful.
It was,
yeah.
But at the same time, that's probably in what you do the key moment because you can't really undo that on set.
Yeah. There's a huge difference between casting commercials and casting like the movie that I did. And with commercials, as you and I talked about yesterday briefly, is you see so many people and it's so repetitious. You're seeing actor after actor. I mean, you can literally, on a callback session, see how many. I mean, you could see 100 people, which is ridiculous. And so the repetition drove me nuts because different actor come in, say the same lines, you say thank you very much. You know right away, I did within literally 4 or 5 seconds if the person was right or not, but you've got an agency who's next to you, so you got to give. Plus the actor spent a long time getting to the session, and you don't want to just dismiss them.
Yeah.
And but you knew right away that they shouldn't be here, and you feel, but so they do a reading, and this went on. This could go on for hours and hours and hours. Now with features, what's interesting, you've got a casting director, unlike casting directors in commercials, who has already done the preliminary stuff. So you might see for a part 4 or 5 people.
Really?
Yeah.
So you have no say in a feature over who's in the movie?
Oh no, totally. But what I mean,
you don't.
You do. You have complete say. But what happens is, if it's a good casting director, they're not showing you 100 people. They're showing you, 10 people for a particular role. If you don't like them, you say, this isn't right, and she'll bring in 10 more a few days later. You're not sitting through hundreds and hundreds of people like you do in commercials. And if it's a good casting director, you're seeing good people from day one, from the first person who walks in the room.
So I'm curious.
Yeah.
So you've worked with many celebrities, not just in your features, but your ads. I mean, many famous actors, or they go on to be famous, or they are famous, they're in ads. I mentioned Tommy Lee Jones and others, but how do you work with celebrities? Do you have an MO? I remember reading one time, Steven Soderbergh had I don't remember the particulars, but he had a way of working with actors, a way of kind of flattering them and kind of challenging them. I forget what the particulars were, but, he definitely had a MO for working with celebrities. Did you have one, or just treated them like any other?
It depends who the celebrity is. If it's an athlete, you would have to work with them because they weren't actors. If they were a good actor, then mostly you stand out of their way, and you nudge. That was a great line by somebody. I can't remember what it is. Maybe it was me. But if it's,
it probably was great.
Perhaps, yes. If it was cast well, I think all you have to do is nudge an actor a little bit here, a little bit there. You don't have to do an awful lot. Again, that gets back to casting is the key. Yeah, and I also try to get them in and out as quickly as I could, because I know they wanted to.
Yeah.
And if you would, like, I work with Dennis Hopper.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And
I didn't know that.
And he was sitting in his trailer because he was watching a football game that he was very excited about. But I brought him out, and I did 2 or 3 takes, and I said, "Dennis, you're done." And he was shocked. He was surprised, and he said, "Great." But he did it. I mean, why do 30 takes with the guy?
Well,
he was good?
He was terrific.
Nailed it.
Yeah, he nailed it. Sure, nothing I could have done differently.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have an agency, though, who wants more, which would kind of drive me crazy, because you're working with a great actor and you get it right away, and so you got to put these actors through more takes than what you should.
All right, but that's an interesting dynamic, because a working actor would be potentially intimidated working with you, A, because you're the director, and B, because you're a well-known director. Do you feel intimidated working with a celebrity that way?
Yeah, I think so.
So there's a little of that where
Yeah,
you
there
really
is.
can't maybe push him or her as hard as you might have.
Yeah, a little bit more careful.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, I think that's true, depending on who it is, but
Yeah.
So let's segue to advertising. You mentioned advertising.
yeah.
So James Gartner's obviously directed hundreds of incredible commercials. Agencies could be annoying, probably, right?
Yes.
They could be.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, people like me and writers like me coming up and saying, well, I think you should read it this way. And
A lot of that.
Our
It's-
art directors saying the chair needs to be a foot to the right. You need to move a foot to the right.
Yeah, it's painful.
And people like Tom saying we need to move along, or producer, we need to stay on schedule. Right? Is it
painful.
Yeah,
At
painful?
times, and sometimes great, sometimes wonderful, but it can be painful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's it different from movie making, working with agencies and things like that?
It's in that respect, it's far easier doing a movie because you don't have an agency, and even though you have producers like a Jerry Bruckheimer, Jerry stays out of your way. I mean, he was on the set many days, but he would never say ever did he ever say anything to me in terms of anything that I was shooting.
I thought you said he had notes. He would.
Yeah, he would have notes, not on the set though. He would later call me. He'd look at dailies. He'd say, "I need more close-ups."
Right.
Yeah, he would say things like that.
Did he ever say like I need more explosions?
No,
Like that, more fireballs. Jerry Bruckheimer, made his bones with Don Simpson. Right?
Yeah.
Lots of explosions.
mean, he
Sorry, you were saying.
So it sounds like the aggravations were were different because on set you had an advertising, you had an agency.
So when
you
I
had
was
a
ready
client.
on set in the movie, when I had what I wanted, there was no one I checked with. I said, okay, let's go on to the next setup. So in that respect, it was far easier.
You didn't have to go back and talk to the committee of as the years got by.
Exactly.
The amount of people from the agency and the client, my guess is, kept growing just because the stakes seemed to be so much higher.
Yeah.
So you were we talked about this, obviously, a big shot director. You had your own cooler with water in it.
Very special water.
Did you have any demand? Maybe demands is too strong of a word. As our listeners can tell, Jim's a soft-spoken, nice man. But did you have any demands for the craft service table? I want a certain flavor of Pop-Tarts.
No, I don't think so. When we would do a Coke spot, I would obviously insist on no Pepsis in everybody's cooler and vice versa.
Smart.
I don't think so.
Jim, over the years I found, and one of the things I would be tasked with doing when I worked in an agency is finding a great match, the director for the project. One of the things I found that was always interesting is American directors were much more typecast for the type of stuff they would be bid on than, say, European directors who you looked at a European director and they'd be, there's 3 car spots and a couple of dialogue things and some humor. And did you find, as your reputation grew in the advertising world, that you started to get the same, and I'm not saying they weren't great creative, but the same types of things more often and then maybe every so often you got something that was out of left field, like, why are they bidding me on this?
Yeah, definitely the latter. Why are they bidding me on this?
Like nude ballerinas or
But how would
something?
you react to that, though? I mean, would you kind of dismiss it because why are they bidding me on this? Or would you kind of be like, that'd be a different muscle to flex?
A little bit of both. So if it was something that, a lot of times I get boards that I just plain did not like. And then
from us?
From you guys mostly. And so then you would have to say, okay, I didn't lie. I didn't want my people to lie. So I would just say, which was true, I would say, you know what, I wouldn't do a very good job with this because there are certain things I just truly wouldn't do a good job with. But there are boards, it's work, it's creative that I just plain didn't like. But I got a pretty broad spectrum, which was beautiful. I got funny stuff, comedy, humor. I got serious, dramatic stuff, storytelling stuff, vignette stuff I hated doing, and I would try to pass on that whenever I could because it wasn't storytelling, and I always saw myself as a storyteller, and I didn't feel like I was particularly good with the vignettes.
So like a double mint chewing gum commercial would not be something you'd be jumping to do.
No. Or anything with just a lot of little scenes, even if it's a good product, I was never drawn to it. The other people like Leslie did great with stuff like that, and Pitka did great with stuff like that. I never felt like I was very good.
I need to ask you. I need to give me a glimpse behind the curtain.
Yeah.
For years.
Tom asks the serious questions. I ask about flavors of Pop-Tarts. That's
all right.
Did you,
Have
notice the difference in the quality of questions?
Yeah,
It all balances out in the end.
Already made note of that.
One of the great and production company people and advertising production people, they all live in their little insular worlds. And one of the things we always found at the agency was a lot of times you'd send a script to a director to see if they were interested in the project. And the answer we would get back would be, and I'll just use your name, but it wasn't you necessarily, Jim's not available. Was the not available, in your experience, real, or was it a way to kind of not hurt the agency's feelings? And
hopefully, with me, I would tell my, the executive producers who would be talking to you and others, I would always say, don't lie. So that's why I would say Jim doesn't think he's right for it, which was a true comment. Because I didn't want anybody to lie.
Well, because the awkward thing about is not available. Hey, great news, Jim! We got another month before we have to ship it. When do you become available?
Yeah, and then or you get caught later on. They said that you weren't available for such and such, and I would go, no. When was that? And you get caught in a lie. Now I say that's what I would tell them, but I don't know if that's what they would say to you. I hope they did.
They would tell me it was a terrible idea when you rejected.
Right, of course, because that was easy.
Yeah.
Well, and to me, the segue from that last question is, and obviously, you're not going to name names, but were there agency people who you knew? I don't care.
Name names.
I don't care what they send me. I don't want to work with this person.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
So there were.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Interesting.
Oh yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Just because the aggravation wasn't
Yes.
worth it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I didn't want to go through it again. Yeah, no, definitely.
Okay.
People I wouldn't work with a second time or a third time. And,
Okay. And did you ever do the bottle behind your head trick to release the tension on the set?
Can we visually? Does anybody know what you speak of?
Well, do you want to describe it? Or?
No. I think you should. And did I ever do it? Yeah, but not terribly successfully.
Well, this is
You were good.
something anybody can do, even if you're not on a film set. When you drink a bottle of water, plastic bottle, one of those little 12-ounce deals, and it's empty, and you put it behind your neck when no one's looking, you hide it behind it with one hand, and then you go up to the group and you go, "Gosh, I didn't really sleep well last night. My neck is really stiff," and then you kind of pull your head a little bit to the side, and as you do that, you scrunch the bottle that's hidden behind your neck. And it makes everybody faint.
I wish I had a bottle here. I would, audio-wise, it would be a wonderful description.
That would be great. If Brad Iverson is listening, I tried that trick on him on a spot that I believe you shot, and he almost fainted.
Yeah,
Brad almost fainted.
it's the best. It's perfect. It's almost like having a fart machine. You can always edit.
Never disappoints.
That was supposed to be impromptu. That was supposed to be trying to convince our listeners that it was real. Do another one.
Okay.
That last one was actually Tom.
Jim, I think the last job you did in the commercial world was with Gary, right?
It's the very last one I did. I was trying to find a picture here to show Gary, and I can't bring it up, but I will. Yeah, I did the last thing I did, and should I say why?
Yeah.
Because I had done it for decades, and as I've been kind of insinuating, it can be very, very stressful, very, very difficult, and I wanted to leave on a good one, and I loved working with Gary, and so when we did this job, it was Edward Jones, and I told Gary too, and this is it, I'm done, and I was ready to be done, but anyhow, then I would call up my business partner of sorts, Don Block, and I would say, I'm done. I want to go out on a good one, which is what I did. I went out on a good one. I wanted a good taste in my mouth instead of an icky taste,
Well, that's...
Did they see this coming, the folks you worked with, or was it...
Well, it's pretty funny because when I called our person who did all of the billing and the bids and so forth, I said, so Don was the executive producer and who ran the company, and I said, is Don going to be surprised? He said, no. Don, he's expecting it. He knows that you're growing tired. And so I called up Don right after the job. I said, Don, I'm done. And Don freaked out. He said, he exploded, not in anger, but he was incredulous. And he said, no, you can't do it. You cannot stop. And but I did stop after that. That was
It's nice to feel needed, right? Everybody likes that.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Well, we hired Jim. Just a little insight into Jim. So thank you for the kind words.
Yes,
but we hired Jim because
easy.
we had done a campaign with a director who was he was not a people person. Very talented like Jim, but not a people person. And he would wear like sunglasses in the pre-pro.
Interesting.
Yeah, and not very pleasant. And talented, but kind of difficult to work with. And the director said, I want a very talented director, or I'm sorry, the client said after that, for the next round, I want a very talented director, but I also want a good person. And Tom Karamitis said, I know just the person. And Tom Karamitis connected us to James Gartner.
Kind of reconnected us, yeah, so that's a good thing from Tom.
Jim, were there
He just blows that off, doesn't he, Tom?
Yeah, he's got
just keeps going.
Tom has his list of questions, and he's not going to listen
Gotta take a
to what you say.
compliment.
He's going to go right to the next question.
Got to take a compliment.
Yeah, you could have said, did you hear they're carving my face in Mount Rushmore next year? And Tom would go, so let's go back to that AT&T spot you shot.
I remember
All right,
when I was working
Just kidding, Ace.
So I was working in radio, and I did a production in radio. This is in Atlanta, and it was good. It was a nice little piece, and the program director came in the next day. This is a lesson I've never forgotten. The program director came in the next day and said, hey, Gartner, that was really terrific what you did, and I did this kind of false modesty thing, because I said, oh, no, it really wasn't that great, and he just looked at me very sternly, and he said, Gartner, you need to learn how to take a compliment. Thank you would suffice. And I've never forgotten that.
That's really, I like that. I must
lot of
confess,
people don't know.
I don't know how to handle a
people don't.
compliment
Yeah.
because I feel like my instinct is to deny it.
Yeah, exactly. That's
But
what I was
then-
doing.
Yeah.
And it was great because he looked at me. I mean, he was my boss. He looked at me sternly and said, "You need to learn how to take a compliment." And
Yeah.
I think
Nobody ever compliments me, so I don't.
Well, but here-
I don't get
You
good.
don't have
I don't
to
get
worry.
good at that. I don't
you
get
don't.
good at that.
Yeah, I think deep down, people who can't handle compliments do so because in their heart, they don't really think they're worthy of these compliments. I mean,
Yeah.
so to accept the compliment feels like it feels egotistical for some
Yeah,
reason.
I know.
You know? It's just-
exactly right.
yeah.
So you gotta throw it away. You gotta say, "Oh no, not really." But it's which is not honest either. So
Jim, did you see things going on in the commercial business that accelerated your decision to hang it up? Was it
Yeah.
like what kinds of things were
well, if you
changes?
guys will tell me if you agree with this because you have a different you're coming from a different place. But when I first started, it was director and agency, and you would work things out together. The director would sit down with the agency, propose what he or she wants to do. In my period of time, it was mostly a he. Directors are mostly male, but you go through it and you work out the problems. You'd present storyboards, or at least for me, I did shot lists a lot. You worked it out with the agency, and then the more and more and more time progressed, the less and less critical the agency became, and the client became more important. And the client, meaning the advertiser, had no idea in almost all cases anything about filmmaking, and they were just coming up with just ridiculously insane suggestions, ideas, and sometimes they weren't suggestions, they were dictates, and it just became more and more. And I would say, what are you guys doing here? Meaning the agency. What are you guys even doing here? Because you don't have a place anymore.
Well, let me to that point.
Yeah.
Do you think some of it was you became a victim of your own success? And what I mean by that is the jobs you were generally getting bid on as your career went on were bigger and bigger jobs, and therefore the stakes were higher and higher, and therefore you had a larger contingency, a rather larger group of people from the agency all the way up to the chief creative officer. You had 2 or 3 clients, and all of a sudden Video Village had now 8 or 9 people sitting in there, and you might as well erect bleachers. I mean, if it was a small commercial, if it was kind of just a quick throwaway thing for $100,000, I feel like the spirit of that might have been more what you described earlier, right? Just a couple agency people, an art director, a writer, producer, whatever, and
I didn't feel that, but I mean, maybe you're right. Like the smaller things that I would do would bring out fewer people. I don't know. For me, it just seemed like your client, the agency's client, just became more and more and more involved.
Well, I think that's right. Yeah. I think that's
Whether
right.
small or big, it just
Yeah.
well, because also they're doing fewer big jobs, right, Gary? I mean, you're still working in the business. I mean, the big $1 million plus commercial shoot is becoming more and more rare, I would think.
It has, but I think the big reason for what Jim is talking about is that agencies, bigger than just commercial production, agencies have been marginalized more than they used to be. They used to have more of a place at the table of marketing decisions, and they still do. But it's just, I think the power and the importance of agencies has diminished over the years.
So. And in fact, the more I think about it, the bigger the job, it seemed to me to bring out fewer people, as ironic as that is. And I don't know why that would be, but like Pepsi, clients didn't even come out. Hallmark, they never came out on the shoot. I mean, there was representation from Hallmark, but very, like one person. I think almost the bigger the job, the fewer the people. I don't know why that is, but...
Well, it's interesting. From my perspective, the bigger the budget, even though people would look at it as the stakes are enormous because they're spending $5 million, but the bigger the budget, the easier it was to produce because you could throw money at more things.
Yeah.
It's when you had $125,000 and you had to figure it out in 2 days and you don't have money to do anything. That to me was a much harder job, and agencies would tend to put the younger, less experienced producers on those jobs and put the more senior people on the $2 million jobs, but those were actually in a lot of ways easier jobs to do.
Yeah.
When we would send Jim spots with a $125,000 budget, Jim would say, I want to say this as politely as I can. I have chunks in my stool bigger than $125,000. That's what he would say. No, no, I'm kidding. So I'm curious. So Jim, Jim,
Yes.
even though he's not directing anymore, he still watches ads. I'm guessing you watch TV. I know you don't. You
Right.
watch TV. Jim gets screeners because he gets big shot director. He gets screeners from studios. They're called screeners
For movies, yeah.
For movies.
Yeah.
They send him all the movies. Are there any? What do you think of advertising now?
Oh, I don't-
What do you think of filmmaking now? I know it's a big question, but let's tackle advertising.
So this isn't without exceptions, but I said a long time ago, like 20, 30 years ago, the more which is a good thing and a bad thing, the more access young filmmakers have. When I started out, unfortunately for a lot of fresh directors, new directors, it was difficult putting together a reel because you're shooting on film. It's extremely expensive. You would have to have a film camera, 35 millimeter camera. You had to buy film. You had to have the film process. You have to figure out how to edit the thing. And then, of course, today you can shoot a commercial on an iPhone. You can edit it on a Mac. And when all of this was happening, I was saying to myself again decades ago, when all of this started to happen, I said, it's going to be interesting to see filmmakers in the future. Will they be able to tell a story, or will it be all about editing and flash? And I think that's a lot of it today. I think I'm proven true. Now, there are exceptions, of course. There's some wonderful, wonderful things out there. But largely, I think storytelling has kind of been kind of tossed to the side. Again, not exclusively, but it's more about flash. Look at the summer movies these days. It's a lot of flash, a lot of quick cuts, a lot of editing. It's almost like the execution has become the idea.
That's super interesting. Is that because it's easier to edit than it is to tell a story, or am I simplifying it?
No, I think that's probably true, and young filmmakers are attracted to anybody. It's harder to tell a story than it is to, on your Mac, cut together something that's quick flash.
Is it my imagination, or does it seem like the bulk of new features now are all existing franchises?
Yeah,
it's
no, that's true.
Lots of existing franchises, and you don't,
Everybody, all the studios don't want to take a chance anymore. So they go with something that is true and tested. Let's do another one of those that made $400 or $500 million.
Unless you're like a Marty Scorsese or somebody who just the name of that director is going to bring people in no matter what they shoot.
Right. Yeah.
So for a young director on the feature side, getting established in the business is probably harder than ever, I would imagine.
I would think so.
Because and look, in LA, they're every time my brother's in the business, he sends me every week a studio's laying off 250 more people. I mean, it's just.
Yeah.
I get worried. Not to get this overly serious, I get worried about a lost generation of production people on the West Coast.
Lost generation.
Well, there's been thousands of people who've lost their jobs. So people getting out of school now are not necessarily going to be able to find jobs in that industry. So it's really become really sad. I mean, I know a lot of things have affected the amount of production that happens in California, but it just seems in some ways to be getting worse.
I thought the lost generation was our listenership. I
wouldn't call it a generation. I'd call it more of a bridge game.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, everybody. That was not the fart machine. That was this morning's breakfast sandwich from the hotel.
Oh, good stuff. I'm sorry, George. Good stuff. Okay.
So, Jim, what you're at a stage now where you can probably forget about the irritants of that you encountered in directing and think more fondly about the things you liked and the best projects you worked on. What kind of things would you put in that latter category about your directing career?
The projects that I liked working on?
Yeah, or just the whether it was the clients or specific productions or.
Well, there are definitely many, many specific productions that I've done that I love. I mean, I've said this many, many times. Hallmark, and I'm not saying it because you guys are here and largely responsible for those, but they were stories, first of all, which was most important to me. And they're long, 90 seconds, 2 minutes in advertising. That's gigantic in a world of 30 seconds where every frame has to count. I mean, really every frame, because you've got 30 seconds to tell a story, or sometimes 60 seconds if you're lucky. But with Hallmark, my gosh, it can be anything, and their stories, which again I've said many times, was always my favorite stuff. Are always the stuff with solid stories, and it could be, gosh, it's so great to do what I did for the decades that I've done it. Every job was different challenges, different problems that you would have to solve. I mean, I think about what other people do. Like a surgeon does the same damn thing day after day after day. And what we did, every job was totally different from the job that preceded it. And it was just what a joy. But there were hardships. I mean, there were times that things were very difficult too. But overall, it was what a blessing.
And the experiences were different, not just the spots themselves, but the experiences that you had.
And the memories are totally wonderful.
It's too bad this is not a video podcast. I mean, it's a good thing it's not, because we're not that attractive. And Jim's attractive.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, but anyway, it's too bad it's not a video podcast. We could show some of Jim's excellent ads.
It would be great to do that.
And then 2-minute mini.
And then we could talk about this and that, because when you ask that question, Tom, I mean, there are so many that are just so memorable to me. I mean, stuff I did for FedEx or American Express, or some stuff for Pepsi. I mean, they're very touching stories that I really like to this day, of course.
I mean, you mentioned Hallmark, which I always found, especially back in the days we were doing Hallmark Hall of Fame commercials, which were could be 2 minutes long. But I found, Hallmark commercials, it was catnip for directors. Because as you said, that kind of stuff was not produced, and still to this day, real emotional storytelling.
You know what the trick was with Hallmark is not to get saccharine, because you could go too far, and it would be cringe, the cringe factor. So you had to kind of walk it up to the line, but then back off a little bit. That was the challenge, I think, with Hallmark.
Yeah, nobody does those kind of ads anymore.
No,
I think partly because there's not the room. Nobody does 2-minute long commercials, let alone commercials. Everything's gotten smaller in the business. Social posts. So nobody. But also, I don't think agencies are. I'm making a broad generalization. I don't think they're interested in it. They don't trust it. It's like, we don't do that kind of thing.
That brings up a question for both you guys, both Gary and Tom. Hallmark oftentimes gets kind of the brunt of jokes a lot of time. Oh, that's a Hallmark.
I think people say that
Those
on
are Tom's
stuff.
ads that they were making fun of.
I think people say that for work that they feel is overly sentimental.
Yeah.
But to your point, that was always where we were trying to keep it on the other side of the line.
Yeah, I think so.
Let Hallmark be a facilitator to help fix a situation, but not be the hero.
Right.
Hallmark liked to be background.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great. It was like a lovely, again, 90-second story, and Hallmark is just sort of in there at the end. It was fabulous. Yeah, it's just really good.
When and Jim and I were talking about this last night, which is when, and you'll find out, Gary, if you ever leave this business, but the things that were unpleasant, you kind of more or less forget about, unless they were truly traumatic in your life. And the things you remember are the great people you worked with, and just how you went to battles together and you survived them. And I always found, one thing I loved about production is when you travel with somebody, you get to know them really well. It's not just seeing somebody for a meeting or a conference call. It's you lived with them for a couple of weeks, and you form this bond that's there for forever. That's one of the things I love most about production is you get out of town, people for the most part would leave you alone, and you can really sit there and focus and make something.
Yeah. It's a great thing. It's really a terrific thing.
Well, you said the other day that to your point about people, that you wouldn't miss the process, the aggravations, all the people that wanted to say do it this way, but you'd miss the people. I've always said that about advertising. That's the best part of the business, is that people are interesting. I don't know if you ever worked with Jeff Goodby. You know who that is?
I do.
Yeah, he's a famous ad guy. He had a great quote. I'm paraphrasing it, but it was something like, if you go to a party and you meet someone in advertising, they tend to be the most interesting people at the party. It's just kind of true. They're just sort of land of misfit toys, and they come from all kinds of different places. So I find that's the best part of it.
I think a proctologist would be more interesting to talk to at a party.
That's true. That is true. It's undeniable. That was the machine, by the way, not Tom. That last one. Most of these have been Tom.
Oh my gosh, good stuff. No, the people is what it's all about. I mean, I love the people in my crew who I still have a lot of contact with, and a lot of them anyhow.
Did you leave the door open a crack if there was some project that came up that?
I think so.
You didn't tell me that.
I think maybe if something great came along.
What kind of project? Like, I know that you've done all kinds of things, but I mean, you've obviously done movies, you've done commercials, you've done work for political candidates, for presidential candidates.
Yeah.
So, what kind of thing would come along that would make you go, okay, I'll do it. I'll jump back in.
I think a touching story, probably not a movie, but maybe some. I don't even know if it's a commercial. Some story that is very, very somehow, again, a story that's perhaps emotional. I think, but I can't imagine something like that coming my way. I mean, I don't know what it would be.
Well, there's two categories. There would be a compelling piece of creative or a project from people that you adore, like Gary Doyle, Bob Akers.
Right.
And
Tom Karamitis.
I've actually written a script about our podcast, that I could leave with you. I could leave it behind. It's a movie about our podcast.
Well,
that I made, perhaps.
Maybe. That one was me.
Well, on that lovely note.
Really? Do you guys have to go 8? Okay. All right. That was enjoyable. You know what Stern used to do? Do you guys listen to Howard Stern?
I used to.
No, he's great. I don't subscribe to Sirius, but when I do hear his interviews,
he's a
the best.
wonderful interviewer.
Yeah, the best.
And what he would do at the end, and he says he does not do this intentionally, but it's perfect.
Fart machine?
No fart machine. He would finish the interview. Thank you very much for coming in, and then there would always be another something would say something, and the interview would continue for another 20 minutes.
Yeah.
After saying goodbye, and I think he says it's not intentional, but if it is intentional, it's beautiful because I think it relaxes his guests. Everybody thinks, okay, it's all over now, and so they begin to say things that they wouldn't normally say because they're a little bit more relaxed. It's all over with now. He's very good at that.
Well, it bookends what you said earlier about telling an actor, we got it. That was great.
Exactly. It's the bonus round.
It's funny when the guests that we've had on, when we say that we're done, they're pretty much anxious to get out the door. They pretty much, they leave almost quicker than we can say goodbye.
Well, the difference here,
guys, bye, and you hear the door slam, and so we don't actually experience that.
So when I would work with an actor, because I was kind of known for doing these bonus rounds, and if I got it, sometimes because of time or whatever, I would just say, okay, let's go on to the next thing, and they would say, no, don't we get a bonus round? They love doing it.
Okay.
Because they could just let go.
They might be thinking in the back of their mind, if I get a bonus round, I think I'd like to try.
Yeah, exactly.
We're spending the weekend together up here where Jim lives.
Yes.
We've got a delightful weekend.
In Traverse City, Michigan.
Are we allowed to say that? Is that doxing you? It's okay, Traverse City?
Just don't give out the address.
Okay, no address. But Jim's lovely home in Traverse City, and we spent the weekend together. Last night we went to a baseball game. The Traverse City Pit Spitters is the name of the team, kind of a semi-pro league. And Tom during the baseball game.
That's what had a gastrointestinal issue.
But Tom took a picture of all of us and shared it at the game, and the tributes flowed in. Most people, don't like Tom and I, but tributes flowed in for Jim Gartner.
You forgot my name.
Jim Gartner. All these people are like, what a guy. Jim Gartner, amazing. I shot something with him. Oh, just right? Came in from everywhere.
It was nice.
And It was amazing. Again, everyone ignored Tom and I, but Jim set the internet on fire.
I would like to. That's a really interesting point Gary makes, because directors, by their nature, tend to have big egos, right? As a general rule, I don't have that many directors on Christmas card lists.
Right.
But you have somehow found a way to have an ego, but still be an engaging person who will listen and not a lot of agencies, it's a bad experience a lot of times for agencies. Directors kind of,
So when it's always very nice, of course, when someone says something nice about your work. But the compliments that I really, really love are, and you gave me one, and I'll let you say it.
The first time I worked with Jim and other people who've worked in agency production who may be listening to this podcast will understand. Agency producers tend to get crapped on. They're not on shoots. They tend to be, get kicked around. Directors tend to be very protective of their relationship with the creative team, and if there's frustration, they'll generally take it out on the producer.
Yeah.
So the first time I worked with Jim, we were at a casting callback session, and I was sitting there on my computer, and I was I don't even know what I was looking at, but I guess I had a perplexed, concerned expression on my face. And Jim walked by me, and he looked at me and said, "There's something on your mind. What's the matter?" And at that moment, I said, "Oh my gosh, this is a human being. Mm-hmm. This is somebody who actually is seeing somebody who looks concerned, who's reaching out and drawing them out." And that's when I said, "This is a different breed."
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Well, it's true. I never forgot that moment.
I like those things better than the others. So that's very nice. Those are the lasting things.
Can we get to Jim's flaws now?
Sure,
I think we spent a lot of time. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, plenty of those too.
He's not as good a ping pong player as I expected.
I can be better. I had a bad partner.
We played outside in the wind.
It was pretty good. It was windy.
I had a bad partner.
But Jim's sharing on his computer.
Bob. I'm kidding, Bob. Bob, I'm kidding.
Jim's he won't listen. He never listens to our. Don't worry. Okay. Jim's sharing a picture of our last job. His last.
Yeah, I was wondering if you knew what this was.
Yes, it's in the airport. It's our Edward Jones commercial.
And I knew it was my last job.
Yeah.
And so that was someone took this, Fred probably. This is me saying, I'm done, man. I'm done.
Yeah. No, that strikes me. A couple things strike me about this picture is you haven't changed. You look just the same. And also, look at all that equipment.
Yeah, I know. This is what I mean.
I mean, for the listeners, there's all these different backdrops and lighting rigs and reflectors and monitors and cords going everywhere. And this is old hat for, But it's like
gets back to the Spielberg line. What's the hardest part about directing? Getting out of the car. You got to face this. A whole crew waiting for you to say what you want, and actors, or you feel like I'm going to screw up, and agencies are going to be all over my butt.
Yeah,
it's a terribly intimidating. It can be. And when I first started, it was like time to throw up the night before because you're just so, and you prayed. Literally, actually, that the world would end that night and I wouldn't have to face the next
one.
See,
that's something I think that would surprise a lot of agency people because I think they look at directors as, they have it all in their head, it's all ready to go, and on my,
And some maybe do, but not me. I mean, I was always very, it was difficult. But that got better as time went on. I got a little bit more comfortable but early on.
But I think, I'm speaking for you,
yes.
but based on working with you well into toward the end of your career and what you said to me, you still felt that anxiety even after you'd done 1,000 productions.
Yeah, not as extreme as early on.
You did, right?
Yeah. There was still that all the way.
That's what made you good, though.
Yeah, I think being, I gave a commencement speech once, and I was saying that, a little bit of fear is a good thing. And people, directors, or anyone, I suppose, who go into, I'll keep it to this venue, if you will, of directing. If you come in too comfortable, I don't think that's a good thing. A little bit of fear.
That was not a fart, by the way.
No,
that was
Jim's phone. A little bit of fear is a good thing because it means you've thought about it. You're careful. You're not taking it for granted. Fear is a good thing.
That's, when I had younger producers who were working in my group, when they'd go out to LA or someplace for their first shoot, I always gave them the same piece of advice, which is at the end of the first day, when you go back to the hotel, turn down any dinner invitations. Do not go out to dinner. Stay in your room, order room service, and think about tomorrow.
Yeah.
Think about all the things that could go wrong and how you'll handle them.
Yeah.
Whether it's client decided they don't like the location, client rejected the casting, it's supposed to rain on your location. And think about how you'll handle those things, because when the bullets are flying, they're going to be looking at you, Mr. Producer, to help come up with an answer.
Right.
You'll have plenty of opportunities for nice client dinners and production company dinners. You'll rest better knowing you've thought those things through.
And by the way, I know you guys got to leave, but by the way, and I mentioned this to one of you guys some other time in this last day or two, but that fear factor that I had, that great intense fear that I had, and the great epiphany I had one day was, and early on I'd be thinking about everything, if it was a 5-day shoot, I was thinking about everything, the casting, what am I going to do with the camera, what am I going to say to the cameraman, everything, and it just became so, it was such a weight, until the epiphany was, wait, all I have to do is worry about tomorrow. I mean, it's not that you throw away all the other days, but tomorrow's casting. Okay, what am I going to do for casting? Or tomorrow I'm going to do a pre-pro with the agency, or tomorrow I'm going to meet with the DP, and it just became so much easier. I just have to worry about tomorrow, and so much of the weight was taken.
Did having a really strong AD that you trusted help with that? Know that it's not just me all alone. Obviously, you're the man, but to have somebody you knew was also.
Can you turn the phone?
I don't know. Turn it off.
Jim doesn't know how to turn his phone off.
Yeah, I
literally.
need help.
But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If it. And I know it would never go away, but knowing that, like, if I'm going to shoot with Gary Doyle and Bob Akers, I know these guys are really good.
Yeah.
I am good. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be all come out of my head.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Certain departments are going to take care of that. I don't have to.
Yeah.
And, speaking of ADs, Fred Eisenlohr, who I worked with for many, you guys obviously both know him, is... He was like my ace in the back pocket when I was working with extras. Like, for instance, if I was doing a classroom of kids and I needed a reaction from them. I could think of a Hallmark spot, actually, where I needed a reaction of the class to, at times, laughter and at times intense, like they're listening to a story. And so I just had Fred stand right next to the camera and tell these kids a story. And Fred can be as goofy as hell, as you guys know, and he'd get those kids laughing.
He gave you that fart machine.
He could have used that.
Yeah.
In fact, it was his.
He's a genius.
And at times he would get real serious, and the kids in the classroom would get real intense as they're listening to him. And that was really the classroom reacting to what was really in the story going on, which was another child giving a show and tell kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But so to your point, Tom, that's where an AD can really...
Tell Fred to be careful. Don't want to upgrade all those extras.
That's right.
Well, speaking of fear factor, I fear leaving Jim Gartner.
Yeah.
And his dog, George,
Who's
which is, I'm scratching his belly with my foot right now, and George is coincidentally named my dog. We fear leaving you, but we must get on the road.
I think you're right. You guys are good.
Jim, this was a rare treat. And
Gary, is there anything else you want to say? Okay, good, thank you. Tom?
Just one thing. I don't know.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
Oh, that felt good.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Do you want to?
No, I don't. It's been a delight. Thank you. This has been a joy. Jim, as I'm sure you've heard by now, is a smart, generous, warm, lovely man, and also being extremely talented. And we're grateful for the time you've given to our silly little pup.
I've so overdone that. I have so it's not even funny anymore. But just in case it is funny.
I don't know what's gonna goose our listenership. Having
goose?
A
Did
legend,
you say goose?
Having a legend like Jim Gartner on, or the fart machine. We'd probably get more listeners if we titled the episode "The Fart Machine."
Yeah, just did farts for 45 minutes.
With legends.
Well, Jim, and there's so much to cover. Maybe next time we're in town, we could do perhaps a part 2.
That'd be wonderful.
I don't think we're going to be invited after this weekend, but okay. Dream on.
And for Jim Gartner and Gary Doyle, this is Tom Karamaitis saying,
So there.